There we go. Hi, James.
Murtaza, did I say that
Good.
right?
Yes, absolutely.
You got
Thank
too
you.
many lives, man. You're going live way too much. I'm telling you.
Is it? I mean,
Yeah, you got like three or four in your feed. I don't know, and Instagram is like freaking out or something. I don't know, but here we are. I'm glad to see you.
no, it was, I had a live last night and then I had a live this evening. But because you're in the US, I'm in London, we had to have that time frame that we can have you live here. So it's great to have you here. Thank you so much
It,
for joining in.
it's my
Appreciate.
pleasure. It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
How's how's US? Where are you in the US? Are you in New York?
I'm in. No, I'm in Henderson, Nevada, which is a suburb of Las Vegas.
Okay, fine. So you're pretty close to the millionaire city, I guess. The city that makes
Well,
millionaires.
Well, no, I would say that Las Vegas makes more broke people than millionaires. It's like Steve Wynn, who owns most of Vegas, said if you're the only way to win money in a casino is to own one. The only way
Absolutely.
to make money in a casino is to own one. So
Absolutely.
anyway, those are all shut down right now because of this COVID craziness.
How's it going up there with the lockdown and the COVID and if you can give me a bit of before we start with who you are and everything, I just want to know about let's get the negative out of the way so we can talk the positive.
Well, I don't think it's so negative. I think, one of the seven laws of the universe is the law of polarity, and it says every up has a down, every in has an out, every right has a wrong. It always comes in dualistic pairs. And so, our opportunity is to look at all the good side of the equation, not to ignore the downside, but to look at the upside. And I think there's a lot of upside potential here if we're willing to take it. And
Absolutely.
the unfortunate fact is that most people aren't taking it, and that's really sad.
I mean,
So
this is the reason that I'm doing these live sessions right now with a lot of people all over the world from different backgrounds, different businesses, just to have that upside to all this negativity that's going around with us. Um,
yeah, well, I appreciate that. The world needs that right now.
absolutely.
There's so much fear in the world, and here's my position, Murtaza, is that
Yes.
the number one crisis we're confronted with is not the corona crisis.
Yep.
The number one crisis is the crisis of fear,
Absolutely.
because fear and stress suppress the immune system, and people in fear give their power away. People in fear are easy to control, and whether we like it or not, there are powers in this universe that have a vested interest in keeping us in fear, because when
Absolutely.
we're in fear, we don't think creatively, and we say, save me, save me, save me, instead of taking our power back and doing what we're capable of doing in this world, which is really unlimited.
Indeed. I mean, I was, it's great that you're talking about fear. I just want to have a life example with you that, when I used to be riding a bike when I was a young kid, teenager possibly, and going on the road, riding my bike, my mom always used to tell me that, Murtaza, be careful of the cars that are on the road. And that, that put that fear in the head and you're like, you want to go and do certain stunts and everything, and you can't do it because you have that fear in your head that a car is going to come out, knock you out somehow or the other, and it's going to cause problems. So, yeah, I totally get it. Fear is one of the main killers of a human being. And right now, that's what's happening, right? I mean, fear
It's
is
crazy. I mean, depression, the depression drugs in the U.S., people who are taking, drugs to combat suppression or depression have increased by 40% in the last four
wow,
weeks. And,
wow,
and I mean, that's like nuts. And so what we're doing is we're killing ourselves in the process of trying to avoid dying.
absolutely. We're
Do
dying.
you follow me? I
We're
mean, and yeah, it's crazy. It's
Yep.
crazy because the research proves that one of the greatest causes of stress and depression is isolation. And that suppresses our immune system. And so therefore, it's like Job said in the Old Testament, that which I fear the most has come upon me. And, Napoleon Hill said all the way back in Think and Grow Rich, whatever we fear or revere will begin to clothe itself in the most convenient physical form. And so we create the very thing that we fear the most through that very fear and attempt to avoid, if that makes sense to you.
Absolutely.
So what we're creating here, Murtaza, is long-term trauma because of the short-term fear. Domestic violence is rapidly on the rise. It's on a high. Child abuse is on a high. Alcoholism, which is already off the chain, is rising.
Yep.
And so we're creating long-term trauma to replace a short-term, fear. And so, I could go on this, but one of the things I'm really passionate about and that my wife and I are doing our very best with is to help people realize it's not about avoiding a virus. It's about strengthening your immune system.
Absolutely.
And when you people with strong immune systems who are healthy and strong, even if you get it, you're going to kick it in a couple of weeks.
Indeed.
That's proven medically.
Yep.
So, so far the numbers prove that more people die every single year from the flu than have died from COVID.
More people die with car accidents. More people die with smoking. More people die with diabetes.
Exactly.
There's so many things that people can be dying of, but yet the fear of COVID, dying with COVID, has been taken to such an escalation by the governments and everything, the media, the doctors, everything so put together that it's all just, it's all coming to killing you. But let's keep all of that out of the way. And I want to know, I want you to introduce yourself, who you are, what you do. I know that you're one of the New York Times best-selling authors of your book. So I want to know more about that, enlighten people on about what you've done and what you've achieved. So please do go ahead, James.
Yeah, well, I'll keep it as brief as possible, but I grew up very humbly. We didn't have a lot of money when I was growing up. I certainly didn't have a silver spoon in my mouth, and we were scraping and scratching when I was a child just to get by. And so I've worked really hard all my life, and I ended up at AT&T, and that was my initial career. And I became
the telephone networking company, right? AT&T.
Correct.
Yep.
Correct. And I became a very good salesperson at AT&T, and then they promoted me to be a national sales trainer, and then I ended up at AT&T School of Business, going through a lot of management jobs. I ended up at AT&T School of Business as a C-suite consultant, working with leaders and executives on how to develop leadership and communication and team performance.
Can I just stop you there? I want to know, did you always think that you were going to become a salesperson, or did you have something else in mind when you were a child or a teenager or going to university or something that you wanted to do, but times were hard and you came into sales at AT&T? Did you have that?
Well, no, I didn't always think I was going to be a salesperson. I thought I was hoping I was going to be a rock star.
Wow.
And I played in bands here and there when I was younger, and that just wasn't what I was here to do. I got into the National Telemarketing Center at AT&T, and I was just good at it. And so,
so that's when your journey started with AT&T being their salesperson.
Yeah. Well, even when I was a little kid, I've been very industrious. When I started working when I was 6 years old.
Wow.
And most 6-year-olds right now only work their thumbs.
Yep.
And I was doing all kinds of work.
My 9-year-old, my 7-year-old, my 2-year-old. It's just
Yeah,
thumbs.
yeah, big fat thumbs.
Yep.
And I was selling newspapers on the street corner up at the supermarket. I was, mowing lawns and I was shoveling snow and I had a paper route. And I mean, I've always been very, very industrious. I wanted to make a contribution.
Sure.
And so anyway, then I ended up at AT&T and was good at sales and became a national sales trainer. And then I ended up at AT&T School of Business working with executives. And then when I left AT&T, I started my own consult.
So AT&T have their own school of business where they teach
I don't
students of
know. I
how.
don't know. I don't know if they do now, but they did then.
Okay.
This was a long time ago. I left in '92,
Okay.
so I've been around for a few years. And when I left, I started my own consulting company, doing the same thing I did at AT&T. I was working with culture change initiatives and leadership and all of those types of things. And little by little, I started writing books and I started doing live events. And I really, really scraped and scratched for a long, long time. As an entrepreneur, if any of your listeners, which I'm sure they are entrepreneurs, there were years and years and years where
Absolutely.
I was on vision sandwiches and faith
I'm still
cookies.
going through that. Always.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it's it's
I
it's
mean,
it's
vision.
it's it's life for an entrepreneur to scrap and scratch whatever they can through and get to the point that they want to get at. But yes, sorry, carry on.
Yeah, it's part of the journey, and
Absolutely.
so then I almost threw in the towel a few times because it just seemed way too long and way too hard, and thank God I didn't, because in 2006 I was invited to be a part of this movie called The Secret, which
Wow.
a lot of people have heard of,
Yep.
and to contribute to that and be a contributing author to the book. And so when that came out, that thing exploded my reach, and I went from scraping and scratching to the top of my field. I mean, I had a New York Times bestseller, you already mentioned, called
Yep.
Harmonic Wealth,
Yep.
which hit the top of the charts in the first 5 days it was
Wow.
released. I was on Oprah a couple of times, Larry King a couple of times, on the Today Show, once a month, every single month for numerous months running.
Wow.
And I built an Inc. 500 company. My team and I were inducted into the Inc. 500 with one of the fastest growing privately held corporations in the nation, if not the world, in 2009. I moved into my dream house that I'd held a vision for a long, long time.
And that's the
Uh,
dream house you're staying in right now?
no, no, it was a 7,500 square foot estate in
Wow.
Beverly Hills on Mulholland Drive, and so I was really at the top of my game. And I remember in March of 2009, I had a portfolio that was worth over $20 million, and my then money manager said to me, you've done it, James. You can retire right now and live comfortably for the rest of your life, barring any unforeseen conditions. Well, little did either one of us know that within just 8 months, same year, October the same year, it would all be completely and totally gone.
No
Completely
way.
and totally gone.
No way.
And so, I had this 20 million plus portfolio, and I was set for life, I thought.
And this was a
And then
real estate portfolio or stocks or shares
I
or.
had numerous commercial as well as residential holdings. Um, a business that was generating $10 million a year. I was really on a roll. And so in October of 2009, my company, my team, and I were conducting a 5-day retreat in the deserts of Sedona, Arizona, and it was a deep dive, because here's one of the things I learned a long time ago, is that when I was a sales trainer at AT&T, and by the way, I've done a lot of work in real estate, a lot of work. I've worked with all the big
I, I,
companies in
I
the
I want
U.S.
some I want some tips from you today.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked with all the big companies in the U.S. I've worked with some of the top of the top of the top brokers and agents, and I've coached them and worked with them. And so, coming back to the whole sales idea,
Yep.
I used to be a sales trainer, Murtaza, and I would tell the room at AT&T all the latest and greatest sales techniques, opening, building rapport, overcoming rejections, closing techniques, all these types of things. And what I find is that the vast majority of people would sit there. I'd pour my heart out for a couple of days. They'd sit there and maybe even take notes, but they would leave the room and do the same thing they did before they came in the room.
Yep. Yep.
And it
They,
frustrated
they
me.
they they just changed for that 5 minutes that you're there and you're speaking to them, and they're like, "Wow, James is speaking to me, and he's doing absolutely great out here." But then once they leave that room, it's out of the books.
Well, they got motivated for a minute, and motivation is crap. That's a
Yep.
technical term
Yep.
because motivation comes from outside. And
Absolutely.
if someone says I need to get motivated, that means that they can't move themselves. They need someone to kick them in the pants, and that's short lived. So they got motivated, but in the room, but they leave the room and do the same thing. I
Yep.
got really frustrated until I realized that it's success, wealth, and fulfillment in life is not about skills or strategies.
Yep.
Now, if your listener can get that today, it'll change your life because if you look at social media, if you look at the vast majority, they're looking for a skill or a strategy. Teach me how to prospect better. Teach me how to market better. Teach
Absolutely.
me how to close better.
Yep.
Teach me whatever. And I guarantee you those things, I mean, I'm not saying they're not important. Of course they are,
Yep.
but they're not the driver. The driver is not external. The driver is internal. And you might want to, as a viewer today, you might want to write this down. Your psychology always drives your strategy. How you think and feel is going to determine how you act. And
Absolutely.
and so I started to shift and move to the internal game. And I began to realize that if I could help people change the internal game, then their external game would automatically follow. Does that make sense to you?
Yep. Sort of. But yes, carry on. It's coming to
Sort
me.
of, sort of. Tell me why it doesn't make sense to you.
I
Because
mean,
because how? Go ahead.
if I was in that psychological mind that I want to do something, yes, I want to do it, but sometimes there are constraints that, okay, I'm listening to you now, but when I leave this room right now, after we speak, there are certain constraints that I cannot possibly jump to the next level, so it just sometimes
Like
holds me back.
what? Like what?
Uh, Money, time.
It
uh,
has nothing to do. Okay, you want some free coaching here today, my friend?
Absolutely.
Are you willing to play?
Absolutely.
Okay, you have all the time there is.
Absolutely. Yes, we do.
To tell me that time is an issue is total and complete BS. And people tell me that all the time. Every single one of us has 168 hours in a week.
Yep, we do.
Every single one of us. We've been on voluntary house arrest for about 1,200 hours now.
Yep.
All right. I was just calculating it the other day. What have you done with it? Because
uh,
most people have totally blown it.
Absolutely. They
You
just
know,
sat
most
there.
people most people are binging on Netflix and watching movies and eating junk food and feeling sorry for themselves and worrying about paying the rent. And I'm not insensitive to that because,
Yep.
33% of the people in the U.S. didn't pay their rent last month. And it's going to be even higher this month because those people had discretionary income coming into this month that they're not going to have going into May.
Yep.
But the fact is that we all have all the time there is. And the question is not, do you have time? Because time has you.
Yep. Totally get it.
And that's just an excuse. You do
Well,
have
that
the time.
I mean, let me tell you, that's not my excuse. I'm utilizing my time as much as I can, the best way possible. That is why my time well in speaking to people, getting inspiration from people, getting motivated by people, learning different skills, techniques, sales techniques. And because I come from the real estate background, I tend to deal with properties and I want to know how to close on deals and things like that. So, you know, I think I'm doing my the best in my way possible that I can in terms of utilizing my, but yes, there are flaws here and there. You know, you can't be picture perfect. But
Right. Well, and you know, here's the thing. I'll go back to my premise. It's not about sales techniques. It's not about marketing techniques. It's not about skills. I mean, I'm not saying those things aren't present. Of course they are. I
yep,
have them and I can give them to you. But the reality is when you're telling a good story, you know, most people are caught up in their story.
yep,
Well, I can't do this because of COVID, or I can't do this because I'm too young, or I can't do this because, you know, I'm not skilled enough, or I can't do this because the market is soft, or I can't, you know, it could go on and on and on.
I can't, I
And the
can't, I
fact,
can't, I can't, I can't. It just keeps
it's
going.
all a story.
Yep,
You know, the story about your life determines your life. And the challenge that most of us face, let me go back to the premise. Your psychology always drives your strategy.
yep,
The way you think and feel always determines how you act or don't act. I mean, I have a friend, my wife and I have friends here in Vegas. I've purchased 7 properties from them.
wow,
7. They love me, okay? And I love them. And the reason that they're so darn good, and they're doing well now. They just sent me an email. They've just closed 2 sales during COVID.
yep.
While
I,
other people are
I,
stepping back, going, oh, I can't do anything.
I mean, let me tell you this, that when it came to, I mean, the start of the year, 2020, I mean, after we finished Brexit and the elections and all that kind of stuff, and we were set to go for the new year, and I was like, hold on a second, there are people closing deals left, right, and center, and I can't do anything. I mean, what am I doing wrong out here? But come COVID, I've closed 2 deals already during COVID. And I'm like, is this because of the fact that I'm utilizing myself better in terms of social media presence, in terms of emailing clients, or possibly now those clients that do not check emails that I send, they are actually checking my emails and they're seeing that Murtaz is actually sending stuff that appeals to us. And through that, I mean, I've had this property for like 6 months now, but I closed it 2 weeks ago. I mean, not 2 weeks ago, last week. So it was great. Great to have that.
Congratulations. And so, you know, I'll go back and quote what you said earlier. There are constraints outside of me that can keep me from my success. And I would say, no, there's no constraints outside of you. The only competition, you might consider writing this down, the only competition you'll ever face is the competition between your disciplined and your undisciplined mind.
The only competition you'll ever face
is the competition between your disciplined and your undisciplined mind. Most people have very little discipline, and discipline precedes dominion.
perfect.
You know,
The only
God.
competition you will ever face is between your disciplined and undisciplined mind. Amazing. That is
Yeah,
superb. I'm going to use
thank
that
you.
in the live
You
story
know,
that I post after, but it's absolutely
e-
amazing.
every every great tradition since time began has told us that we have the power of God within us. We were created in the image and the likeness of God. It doesn't matter whether it's Islam or Judaism or Christianity or Buddhism, all of them, you know, say the same thing in different
Yep,
fashion. And so, you know, there's no limitation there. The only limitation you'll have is the limitation of your own thinking.
absolutely.
And so, you know, the limitations reside inside. Let me come
Yep.
back to the premise. Your psychology drives your strategy. You know, the limitations reside inside. Those people who are drinking too much and eating comfort food and binging on Netflix right now and feeling sorry for themselves and sleeping in and sleeping too much and not getting busy, they're going to die, because die spiritually, and they're going to die in their business. Because let me tell you something, we will come out of this, but we're not going back to normal.
It's going to be the new normal.
Everyone's hoping and praying that it's going to go back to normal. It's not going back. There's going to be a new normal. You're correct. There's going to be social changes. You already see them. You think, you know, the minute all the restriction, everyone says, hey, you know, let's come out, everything's
I mean,
back in business, that we're all gonna.
Sorry, go ahead. Apologies.
Do you really believe that we're all going to just run out in the streets and start hugging each other and shaking hands? And no, there's going to be people in fear that are like, oh, I still might need to wear a mask and I might wear some gloves, and oh my God, that person might be infected with an invisible enemy, and they're going to be socially. It's already changed. It's not going back. There's going to be travel changes. Mark my words. Economic changes. They're already happening.
Yep.
Okay, a lot of small businesses are never going to rebound.
Absolutely.
They're just not.
Absolutely.
They can't. They're done. And so let me tell you something. As a viewer today, you're either going to come out of this better or you're going to come out worse. You will not come out the same. And everyone, oh, how do you, James, I'm going to come out the same. No, you're not. No. Because there's a law in this universe called the perpetual transmutation of energy. I'm a big fan of quantum physics, the most accurate science on the planet. And the perpetual transmutation of energy tells us energy is always moving into form, through form, and back out of form. It never sits still. It's always moving. And so what that means is that you're either creating or you're destroying.
Yep.
You're either growing or you're dying. When you come out of this, if you're not better, you're going to be worse. And mediocrity is going to die in the new market. You're going to have to be great in the new market.
I mean,
and you know, you're not going to be able to, I'll just talk to real estate because I've done a lot of work. You're not going to, you know, so many people, I drive around Vegas and people have their face on a bus stop seat. Give me a frickin' break. People are putting their ass on your face. You really think that's doing anything? Do you really think anyone's going to see that bench and go, oh, let me call them? No. You know, and then what do most real estate agents do when you close a deal? They bring you some you know, cheap little coffee table book that they bought in volumes. Congratulations. It has no personal touch whatsoever. They didn't put any thought into it. They just buy a crappy book that someone and go, when I get that, are you serious? You know, I just throw it away. And fortunately, you know,
when someone closes a deal with you, what sort of,
you've got to be great. You've got to set yourself apart.
Yep. If someone closes a real estate deal with you, what do you expect them to bring you?
Hang on, I lost.
I was saying, if someone closes a real estate deal with you, what do you expect them to bring to you?
I'll tell you what I expect. I expect my experience and my Bluetooth dropped, so hopefully you can hear me okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good. So I'll tell you what Mel and Debbie do. When I bought my first house here in Vegas, Debbie, I lived in Los Angeles. I bought a second home in Vegas, and I didn't know anything about Vegas. And so Debbie took a whole day off and drove me around to all the furniture stores in Vegas, showing me where they were and helping me pick out new furnishings for my new home. It gets better than that. Who does that? No one. It gets better than that. So then, you know, I was on the road all the time, and I wasn't able to get over to Vegas to pay attention to my home. So she says, hey, give me the keys, and I'll drive by and I'll pick up your mail and I'll check it out and make sure everything's cool. And you know, I'll come in during the summer and turn the air on so it doesn't mess with the plumbing. And I'll come in during the winter and turn the heat
Yep.
on so it doesn't. Who does that? No one. That's what I expect. And guess what?
Absolutely.
I bought 6 more
Absolutely.
properties from them. And because
Wow.
they're awesome. They're one of the top agents in Nevada. And here's how good it is. I was on my way to the Palms Hotel once because they had properties for sale at the time, condos, and I was going to buy a condo on the 37th floor facing the Strip, and as an investment property. And on the way,
Okay.
you know, they didn't have anything to do with it. And on the
Yep.
way to the condo, I called my way. I'm going to close the deal. He goes, yeah. I said, well, come on over. So, you know, they didn't even introduce me to the place. I called them because they're so darn good. And I said, hey, this isn't going to cost me anything. You know, I'm closing it through the property. I could have
Yeah.
done it directly through the property, but why not cut them in on the deal because they're so good? That's what I expect. And that's very, very rare. And that's why they're knocking it out of the park continuously.
That
Because
is
they're
a
not,
really great service that they've given you. Absolutely amazing.
yeah, they're not money hungry. They're relationship focused.
Yep. That's something
And
to.
they're value driven. And that's the key. That's really the key.
So now my Bluetooth is gone. But yes, it's really amazing to hear how you strategize yourself and some of the words that you're using, some of the quotations. It's absolutely amazing to hear them. Question: when are you coming to London to buy your first investment property in London, or do you already have one?
I don't I don't want to buy property anymore. You know, I'm in a very different place in my life right now. You know, and this isn't going to be popular for your real estate friends, but I don't think it's a
That's
really
all right.
good time to be holding property when we're in such a turbulent time in our world. Because, you know, investments that have a liability attached to them are not always the best investments because the liability continues. You know, when my mortgage on my house in Beverly Hills was $25,000 a month. Now that's like nuts, right? And when I went belly up in 2009, 10, the mortgage continued, even though my revenue didn't. And
Yep,
so
exactly.
I'm
Bills
really
and
into,
mortgage never stop.
you know, I'm personally at this point in stage in my life, given my experience, and it's not for everybody, but I'm into flexibility. I think the warrior travels light, and if I'd love to come to London, and I might rent the best place in London to stay in while I'm there, and I don't have to pay any taxes, I don't have any mortgage, and I live like a king while I'm there, and then I go home and forget about it.
I want to be hosting you when you're in London. You know, it's going to be absolutely amazing when you're downtown. Um,
I'd love to come to London.
have you ever been to London before, or will it
I
be?
have not yet.
Well, you need to come. You're missing out. I mean, after this COVID's over and everything, you know, I feel the travel industry is going to be hit really massively than anything. But let's see how it goes. I mean, I can't stop selling real estate. I have to keep selling real estate. But one of the main things that's happening in real estate right now is, I don't know about the US, but in London especially, that the investors that are buying the properties in London or the UK, they're renting it back to the tenants from the government because the government is paying them a guaranteed rent rather than a tenant like me or a professional, a banking professional or something like that, who cannot possibly pay rent, who's possibly been furloughed, who's been made redundant. They can't pay rent. These guys are now giving it to the council. So I can just see the whole shape shifting out here that's going on. And obviously, like you said, 33% of the US population could not afford their rent in March, and that's going to increase this year, this month, and the following month, because obviously people are not going to go back to their jobs. So, and the same thing is happening in London right now, that the amount of benefit applications that have gone in to the government has escalated to an unbelievable number. So I can just see that happening for the next 6 months, 8 months, maybe a year even, that people will not be able to get out of the system they are in. And like you said, why can't they get out of the system? Because they keep on saying, I can't do this, I can't do that. But you got to work according to the system, right? You got to make or break, and that's what I'm learning right now with doing all these live sessions that I am just learning so much from people and grabbing so much out of them. The amount of knowledge, like today, some of the words, some of the comments, some of the explanations, the theories that you've given will help me in life. Being a youngster, I'm nowhere to be, but those things help you. Like just before you, that I was talking to another young entrepreneur who's only 22 years old, and some of the work he's doing is absolutely commendable. And you just learn from different things and you put them together into your field so that you can grow in your field. But that's how I see it. That's how I see life right now, that you got to utilize your time to learn from others and get that knowledge across people so that motivation can be.
And you have the time. I mean, life has gifted us with the time right now.
Absolutely.
And so shame on you if you're not utilizing it to your advantage, because like I said, you're going to either come out better or worse. There's no in
Absolutely.
between. And how many times, let me just ask your viewers, how many times have you thought or said, I need a new job, I need to do something different, I need to make a change? Well, here it is.
This
Here
is
it
the
is.
change. This is the
Gallup,
change.
this is an opportunity. You should be digging deep, looking at your purpose, finding your purpose. This is the work I do in my one-on-one coaching. What's your purpose? Why are you here? What are your values? What's your vision for your life? Because most of us are flying by the seat of our pants and we're just on unconscious autopilot. And so you've got the time right now. And 1 year from the day, you're going to look back at the day and you're going to either go, wow, I really utilized that and I grew and expanded and became better, or you're going to look back at it and go, I totally blew it. I had the opportunity and I totally blew it. And so again, I'll go back to 1,200 hours. You've had 1,200 hours so far. That is on a corporate job. That's 3 40-hour work weeks you've had in voluntary lockdown. Counts the rest.
Yep.
Voluntary.
I may have lost 100 hours of that. I'll be honest. I may have lost 100 hours just thinking what am I going to do. But once I got that thought process right, I didn't waste a single minute of that. And right now, I don't think I'm wasting a single minute of those hours that we are getting every week. And I wouldn't want to say I love myself for it, but it's great to have that feeling to wake up every day in the morning. Like before, when this lockdown happened, I was like, oh man, what are we going to do tomorrow? What are we going to do in the next hour? Are we going to watch Netflix? Are we going to, but then when I did my first live session on my own, I was like, this is something unique that I can do out here. And that's what I thought, that's how I saw it, changing myself and everything. And I see myself getting alive, not just selling real estate, but talking to people, making conversation, understanding different minds, different psychologies. It's great to have that in me right now. And every day, like now, I feel like waking up and I'm thinking about the next session and thinking, what am I going to do different today? How am I going to strategize this property sale or that property sale? Rentals is of course not working right now because there are not many people renting, but it's the investment side that's going on, and there are cash buyers out there that are doing all sorts to take the advantage of the real estate market right now. But yes, so I want to do this again with you, and I want to do it when you're in London next time. So, any final thoughts, any piece of advice that you would like to give our viewers? Obviously, this live story is going to be on my story for the next 24 hours. So you might want to send someone on my profile and tell them to watch what you've said. So, any last words of advice to myself, to the viewers?
Yeah, the last thing I would remind you is that it's time to take our power back. You know, we give our power away. We think we're powerless. We get ourselves caught in stress and fear. And, you know, you have an unlimited capability. There's a power working through you that is way bigger, stronger than anything life can throw at you. And it's time for us to wake up. It's time to rise. If there's ever been an opportunity in the world for us to collectively see that we're all swimming in the same soup, we really are. It's not about America or England or you know Israel or India. It's
Yeah,
about the world. We're all
absolutely.
in the same situation. And
Yep.
when we come together as a human family and we remember who we are, then we can really make some massive shifts and positive changes in the world. And it needs to happen. It really needs to happen. And it has to start with you. So it's time to take your power back. It's time to rise. It's time to get out of the victim mentality and realize the kind of power and ability that you have. And you have the opportunity right now to do that. And I want to challenge you and encourage you to really seize it. Because if you don't, an opportunity like this may never, ever come again.
Absolutely. On that note, thank you, James. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on, and hopefully next time I'll tell you about some more change that I might have gone through in these few weeks, few hours, whatever, and let's see how that goes. But thank you so
Okay,
much for tuning
Murtaza.
in. Take care,
Thank you
James.
so much, my friend.
Enjoy
Have a
your
great day.
day.
Lots of love. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye. So, guys, that was James Arthur Murray, one of the bestsellers of his books in the New York Times. So, if you're looking for some inspiration, some motivation, or any kind of just someone to talk to, do hit him up, follow him, see what he does. I mean, some of the things that he's doing are absolutely magnificent. I mean, he's opened my eyes right now, opened up my brain in terms of how I think and how I feel and what's my psychology and everything. But yes, he's right in terms of it's time for us to take our power back. So I wish you all the best in taking that power back. Thank you so much for tuning in, whoever did. And I'll continue doing these live sessions. Do tune into my live sessions because I enjoy them really thoroughly. And I'm sure you do too. So thank you so much. Have a great evening wherever you are. Have a great day and enjoy yourselves. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.